Ja bi lijepo zamolila sve da polako sjednu. I would ask all of you to join us here so we can start. Thank you. So, well, what's the time? So, good afternoon to you all, I can say, and thanks for being with us, because I think what we are going to hear today is of utmost importance for designing our future. We live in very insecure times where gaps between people, first of all, are widening. And now with the date of the hearings of new commissioners and with the design of the new commission that will work in next 5 years, I think it's of crucial importance to hear what will be the new European context and the role of civil society in it. So I'm very pleased to be moderating this panel with fantastic crew, I have to say. From that side, one of the best experts, not just in Croatia, but I think European-wide on EU law and EU things, professor at the Faculty of Political Science, Mario Monta, former Schumann Fellow at European University Institute in Florence. Welcome. Second, the person who can be our Janus, but not the bad and the good God, but the person who came from the civil sector, who worked really in the mud for years, and now became a new MP from the Green Party at the European Parliament. Gordan Bosanac, welcome to you too. We have another person who worked in very difficult circumstances, and in Croatia and all over the region and Europe. Leila Šehić, who is still the president of Center for European Volunteering. Welcome and thank you for being with us. And last but not least, to my left, Ionut Sibian from Civil Society Development, is it Forum or was it Foundation, sorry? And of course, he's here in the name of European Economic and Social Committee concerning what he sees basically withholding within itself as the biggest consultative body to European institutions. I think your view today will be very important, so give them the round of applause for the beginning, just to encourage them to be open. Thank you. Mario, we all basically know each other, so excuse me if I will be on first name basis. I hope it's okay to have more open discussions. Mario, just give us an overview. I don't know were you listening about how do you see the construct of this new commission? Because for me it was really mind-boggling to understand who is who, what's whose responsibility, what kind of vice presidential positions there are, what kind of portfolios we have, and concerning our subject, how in this kind of design of the new commission will European public, as represented in civil society, will have their say, basically, in designing EU policies and thinking about our future in the next 5 years.
Okay, thanks for the invitation. First on the Commission. So we see a rather, I wouldn't say new trend, but something that started with Jose Manuel Barroso almost 14 years ago, 15, which is a presidentialization of the European Commission. So Ursula von der Leyen, it's no secret, likes to keep things under control most of the time, which is, from a policy point of view, rather problematic, because there have been many instances in the last, years where, the gist of policies have been created in the cabinet of the Commission President and not in the Directorate Generals, which are sort of the ministries of the European Commission. So the structure of the Commission, many people, especially in the media, were very confused with what's going on. But this is basically further centralization of the European Commission, with many overlaps in policy portfolios and responsibilities. So you would see, there are now 6 vice presidents of the European Commission, as opposed to last time where we had executive vice presidents and vice presidents. This time around, it's only executive vice presidents. And what's very interesting, from a policy point of view, Ursula von der Leyen is saying, well, policies in today's world are intertwined. You cannot separate, climate policy from social policy, and vice versa, and so on. This is, of course, true, but in terms of policy coordination, it will be very tricky for the new Commission to speak with one voice, especially when we talk about portfolios like climate change, just transition, and so on, because you see that the people that occupy the positions of vice presidents and commissioners might not have necessarily the same viewpoints on what kind of green transition we want to see. So we have Teresa Ribera from Spain, who is a staunch advocate of the green transition, a socialist, and then on the other hand you have Wopke Hoekstra from the Netherlands, which is the commissioner for the climate change, which looks at things more from a business side of perspective. And to get to the second point in terms of civil society, well, as you rightly mentioned before, the core arena or forum for civil society in the EU has always been the European Economic and Social Committee. And what science tells us about the influence of this consultative body is that it is influential when topics are discussed where members of this body have very large expertise, unique knowledge, right? And where they can contribute to the Commission's the laying of tracks of different policy problems, whereas in other topics, it's as a consultative body, the reach or the influence is not necessarily that high, as I said, in other areas. So many things have been initiated in the last couple of years in terms of civil society involvement, but what we'll talk about today is, my fear that, especially from the green transition point of view, we might see a further deterioration of the role of civil society, and we'll get into the details further. But we'll see. I think it's a crucial moment, I think, for the quality of democracy in this term, to see how we deal with issues that have been floating around for a long time, like transnational lists, youth checks, like in the Economic and Social Committee, the role of the public in policy making. So many of these things will, I guess, be discussed in this term as well, but we'll see what kind of outcome.
So maybe the question both for Jonut and for Gordan, just to set the scene. What I heard just a couple of minutes ago from you, European Economic and Social Committee did something that was not the case before. You wrote it, the pledge for the new commission. Your organization, and 100 MPs pledged to it. Can you tell us what's in it? What do you propose to the new commission?
Okay, so a bit of background. Because of the Active Citizens Fund, before it was called NGO Fund, we created this regional movement of civil society. Why we have done so? Because we felt that after enlargement, the civil society from Central and Eastern Europe, it was used by the big platforms in Brussels just to tick the numbers to prove to the European Commission that they have membership from our state. So basically we are a kind of weirdo people. We are talking about civic space, rule of law, and things that for civil society in the Western countries, they say, what the heck, we will never encounter that. Populism, fascism, and these thing. So this was the idea that we went together. It was with the Slovaks, with the Polish, with the Slovenians. So this was the core that we started this movement under the so-called Norwegian funds, and they were so good in putting aside some money for creating and investing in this network. And we were quite successful because then they realized, you know, the Western civil society organization, that they start to have the same problems, you know. So this is the background. And we said, okay, which is the mechanism we could work? And we said, let's work during the presidencies. Each of us will have 6 months the rotative presidency. So we started to work on these meetings, you know, like each civil society, let's say, movement in a country to hold the meetings. And in 2019, we started in Bucharest to have it because it was the European election. And it was the first letter. It was wrote by the civil liberties. They helped us in drafting it. And it was really funny that everyone in Europe endorsed it. So it became not Central and Eastern Europe, it became, you know, the pledge of European civil society. Now we went to Warsaw. We couldn't go to Budapest, so we organized it in Warsaw. We had the members of parliament signing it and almost 500 organizations around Europe signing it. What they've done brilliantly, it was taken by Civil Society Europe, that is umbrella of the umbrellas at the EU level, and they went to von der Leyen's cabinet. And then, we'll talk later, I could tell you that part of the portfolio of McGrath, that is the Irish commissioner, is basically what we have asked in the letter. The proposals from his designation letter, most of it is what we proposed in the document. So, yeah, this is a bit of background. If we are organized and we speak on one voice, very briefly, 2 pages, not more. This was the letter that we have sent to all the new leaders. We could have an impact at the policy level.
Gordan, you've been now there for how long? A month. So you had take the mic. The one plenary, right, in Strasbourg, and
there was the
first and the second. Yeah.
2 plenaries.
Your hinge, first, and your actions. We saw the other day. Basically, you started tutta forza, what Italians will say, with the things with NGOs from the region, from Serbia. You had strong reactions, but in terms of what you see, what you sense, what can be expected with the hearings, and, you know, will the Irish commissioner and von der Leyen commission be the one who will really pledge for democracy and civic space in Europe, in contrast to what we saw in the former period, which was serious breaches of whatever it meant under the umbrella of, for example, rule of law, if nothing else. Will continue.
So it's going to be difficult to cut the things short because when we
have 2 hours, so it's long.
But then at the end we will say it's going to be difficult again. But we first have to go to the day after the European election and see the results of the election. So, you know, Europe has said what it has said. And it has said,
and it's not the center is holding, but the right is rising.
Exactly. You know, so we and all of our parties, we can ask ourselves why we didn't do better, why didn't we get more votes. But the reality, and I can talk on behalf of the parliament, that, you know, EPP is the absolute winner of these elections, and basically without EPP you can't do anything in the parliament anymore. And most probably it will be hard to do is also some things in the commission without the EPP blessing. But this is another very interesting dynamic. As you know, apart from EPP, we have now not only one radical new groups, there are like 3 of them. So you have ECR, which today looks like very decent political party, but come on, it's Meloni and it's the Polish Peace and Justice, isn't it? The party. So, I mean, for us, they were like radical right. But then you go further, you have Patriots for Europe, where you have Orban and you have... AfD is the last. You have Orban and you have France Oh my God, my brain is blocking.
Assemblée Nationale, Le Pen.
Le Pen, of course. And then this is not enough. Then you have even more right. You have pure fascist party, AfD, with some individuals. So, it's quite a big group, and you see the numbers, it's difficult. And if you go to the center, to the left, if you collect numbers together with us Greens, Socialist, Liberal, and the left, we don't have any more majority. And as I said, EPP is the one who decides on the future now. And in the first days of the parliament, you may have been following, the main idea was to see how to isolate extreme radical right. Meaning that for EPP, ECR is not. So Meloni and Polish Peace and Justice is not for them anymore radical right. But we will all really working a lot to try to at least isolate Orban, Le Pen, and the fascist. And this has been working for some while. Because I can say, looking how actually the majority is treating Viktor Orban, who is maybe the best example of breaching the rule of law. I mean, I don't have to talk about him. We all know who he is. There is really like isolation of his influence, not only the parliament, I would say also in the commission. So there is kind of the consensus, and he will not have any room to do any kind of influence. Even the Le Pen will not. But ECR, the doors are very much open, and for sure, what we are also seeing now in the first days of voting in the committees, around some very small votes, like which are not crucial, important votes. And it's not about the positions, because on the position we managed to do this cordon sanitaire, not to give any position to patriots and to AfD crowd. But what we are seeing on some other things related to migration, security, green transition, which is not anymore green, now it's clean transition. We see immediate grouping of extreme right wings with the EPP. So the question what will be about the rule of law, how EPP will actually stand on that point. Is they going to group with us, progressives, or they will turn to the extreme right? My impression is, that for first weeks of parliamentary work, I see that there is a slight majority, I would say, in EPP that will not gamble with the rule of law, because they had enough of Orban and what he did. But you never know how it's going to turn. So I think that maybe the rule of law principles and the Megra cabinet will maybe be strong on that, and there is a space to work on it, but nothing is guaranteed. It can turn in the right-wing direction immediately, but NGOs working on migration, environment will have a serious problem. So those initiatives will be blocked for sure. And security topics, or challenging the militarization of Europe. Those initiatives coming from civil law, this is going to be extremely hard, but this doesn't mean that we have to stop to push it, but we just have to think how to do it in the best possible way. And there are some ways. I was, for example, astonished. I was before working in the Croatian parliament and always was complaining, how you never get the agenda good enough in advance in the Croatian parliament. Like on Fridays, you get the agenda what will happen next Tuesday. In European Parliament, we will have final agenda on Monday, 1 hour before the Parliament will start. It's incredible things that actually you negotiate in the Conference of Presidents of the Parliament, and how you can push different topics to the debate, which can suddenly result with even resolution if you have enough votes. So there is, it's exciting. There are some opportunities to work. It's not going to be easy, and especially it's not going to be easy, as I said, on topics as migration, environment, security.
Thank you. Very important things you said, and what Mario mentioned, the fight for whatever is democracy and legitimacy of European political space, which is still, divided into nations. You don't vote for common European political list. It will be also, I think, important thing that needs to be worked on. Leila, I've mentioned at the beginning inequalities. We live in, again, very difficult times concerning economic grievances, inflation. We have problems of demography at the continent. Gordan mentioned migration. This social bond, social trust in society is breaking up, and this, communal, educational, voluntary levels are, I think, becoming more and more important into building up this democracy bricks in Europe. So when you see what's going on, and from your field of work, from voluntarism, but in terms of really doing hard work, with people on the basic level of human connection, if we can say it. How do you assess the period we are entering?
Thank you for the question. I always think it's so important, and we talk so little about that. And all the trends you mentioned, what's happening on our in our societies and in our communities, that the high polarization, the quality of human relationship, social inclusion is, I would say, declining. Social cohesion is also, when you see the level of trust in institutions, even in civil society organizations, is declining. In these circumstances, I think it's becoming more and more important to invest in civil society, and specifically now in volunteer engagement. But let me just tell you how we consider and promote volunteering. We consider it as a democratic civic engagement within the framework of the fundamental civic EU values. This is for us really important when we talk about the European level and the organizations that are gathered in Center for European Volunteering. So for us, it's really important to say that volunteering needs democracy, and democracy needs voluntary engagement. So it's really interconnected. Unfortunately, volunteering is still predominantly connected with the narrative of free labor force and social delivery. I mean, there's no doubt that volunteering is very important for social delivery, but it really goes beyond. And then I come to the point you mentioned. If we just think about how volunteering is always an encounter, people with other people, people with environment, people with problems and needs in the community. I would say it's a unique and critical phenomena to support when we think about strengthening communities, social cohesion, addressing polarization, opening dialogue, opening the space for people to get to know each other, their differences, and learn how to make dialogues around their differences. If ever, I think this is a very important time to invest in volunteering. Most of what I said about volunteering now, I think it also refers to civil society. When we just see how very fast our environment is changing, when we just think about the rapid technological development, I'm not sure if we are aware that in a way, we are all landing on a new ground. And I don't see how it's possible if we don't consider the policy on civil society as a mainstream policy. As we invest in developing health, as we invest in developing social services, green transition or clean transition, digitalization, we should think about civil society as a mainstream policy if we want to land in a more soft way.
And to add to your thing, when we connect all those challenges with the new weaponization of everything environment and securitization of everything and digital environment, the new generations that are arriving with, cognitive warfare, cyberspace, disinformation, then we come to who will support civil society in this new era. Because if you have overall issue of hard security as a priority to Europe now because of Ukraine, because of Middle East, because of ourselves, and you don't know how to basically promote human rights abroad when you cannot basically safeguard it at home. I will give the floor now to Gordan and Mario and to ask you, when you see the portfolios and when you know what's expected of the next multi-annual financial framework, so talking about the budget, because everything is about the budget, how do you see prioritizing of von der Leyen in this budget? And if we talk about, the portfolio of Irish, so rule of law, justice and everything, but the others, because in Ribera's huge thing, you need to talk about human rights, social cohesion, social justice, climate. You need to talk in the other one under the Finnish presidency of this digital big transformation also about human rights in that sector. How do you see the design of new European budget? Mario, we start with you.
Sure. So as it has been said already previously, I mean, the priorities of this commission have slightly shifted. Although if you ask von der Leyen, she would say, the issues of the green transition are still sort of of uppermost importance. But given the circumstances in the world and in Europe, obviously issues of defense, migration, and competitiveness as the key buzzword of this commission will be at the forefront of all budgetary strives. And you don't have to go deep in the history to see that the commission will try to funnel as much as possible funding to issues of innovation, to defense industry, clean tech, as they call it, right? To increase the competitiveness of European industry and the green transition, and it will be, we'll only see, in the coming future how issues of cohesion and agriculture, for instance, will fare, and I mean,
because they were more or less 2/3.
Exactly. Yes,
of the previous budget, cohesion and agriculture.
Exactly. Funny enough, it's a Polish who is sort of in charge of the budget and directly linked to von der Leyen's commission cabinet. So he will have this role of balancing, balancing out the different interests of Eastern Europe and the South versus the North. But I think what's fundamental, the fundamental question for European leaders in the coming years will be something that Emmanuel Macron said yesterday, which is sort of I would say a great diagnosis. And I would certainly agree with his diagnosis that for far too long Europe and the EU has been a regulatory supranational state. Regulatory. We just regulate, but we do not invest. And by this I do not mean invest in things like the defense industry, but social investments as well. And things that have...
He should know in France.
Yeah. Yes, things that started sort of rolling out with Next Gen EU finally, investment in healthcare, investment in social services, and building the social infrastructure for sustainable societies. So that's the fundamental question. And, the Letta report and the Draghi report say, we need far more funding from the EU level to make it, to be relevant on the global stage, but also to have a soft landing with both the green and the digital transition and demographic crisis, right? So these are sort of I think it will be fundamental to sort of get these things right in terms of the investment priorities.
Is it too late, Gordan?
No, okay. I'm happy. I'm sitting actually in the Regi committee. It's a committee for regional development. which actually oversees a third of the budget. And I have to say that immediately, I mean, maybe after the election of the von der Leyen as the president of the Commission, immediately the lobbying has started. Because, the cohesion funds are always the most popular funds to take over the money from that pot. So first was like the agri people, the agricultural farmers approach, like is there like something maybe in the cohesion, and then the military defense industry also approach. So one of the tasks which I'm seeing is, which will be my task really to defend cohesion fund to stay as a cohesion fund, which also will not be easy. But as it was mentioned, after the Draghi report, which is now presented as a miracle and savior of Europe, and I'm very, not critical, actually I agree with most of the conclusions of this report, but just thinking it came 15 years too late. And when we remember, what was the culture and what Draghi was saying 15 years ago when we were joining European Union was cutting, closing industries, closing shipyards, and now invest. So where should we invest? In which shipyard? Because you force us to cut. So that's another part of the problem, and this is the really a threat that actually, if we will come to the investments, we will have Europe of two speeds, which was before said, because the center of the Europe, which has industry, has potential to grow, will grow, and
innovate also.
And I don't know in what we will invest. Okay, in a small startup, that's good, but it takes years for a startup to be a strong one. So this is one of the dangers. But other problem is, which immediately our advisors to Regi were telling us, but where the money will come from? Everyone forgot also that, Europe take already a loan for the COVID measures. So someone has to pay back the loan in the future. And everyone is interested in, wants to see the increase of the budget. So also you have here a clear German no, at least Scholz no to any further debt of the European Union, which I'm against. I think that if there is a possibility to go more in depth, I will support, and my group will also support. But it's the question actually how big or small or tight will be that budget, and then the priorities will go for sure in agriculture. But I really hope that we will not let the same mistake which was done before, which is now blamed on us Greens. We have nothing to do with that, and this is that 70% of this budget went to the huge, big agricultural farmers company. So small and middle farmers didn't get any money, or they got some money, but they will pay like a huge bill and pain to report on that money. Now is the promise this will be changed. Let me see how it's going to be the change, especially if the German EPP will have a strong say on that topic as well. Second is the defense. Although I'm thinking that actually, because defense is such a popular now wording for also the national states, so even each national state can allow to increase a little bit more the defense budget. So I think that some of the money will come from the national level. Maybe we can have some savings at least on the European level around that. But as I said, for example, my colleagues from Latvia, Estonia, Poland, who are living near Russia, sitting with me in Regi, took the narrative, but if the cohesion is to make us all balanced and live good quality life across Europe, we who are near the borders of the Russia, people are going away from those borders. So we have to invest on those borders for people to stay. So you can imagine what a bizarre narrative. I mean, people will not stay if you invest in the borders of Latvia and Russia, I don't know, because they will be afraid anyway. And they will go either if you build up 2 factories over there. So this will be the kind of the discussion we will having in the future. But the good news is maybe that the European South, from Greece, Croatia, I would say even Romania, Spain, will be big defender, I would say, of the cohesion. But this fight will be in front of us.
And to give mic to Jonot, you've mentioned Recovery and Resilience Fund, which was a unique thing, and when you see that von der Leyen is maybe trying to push more of this kind of financing in the future. But the issue also with Recovery and Resilience was that there were no much of consultations within society, with civil society, in designing, in having kind of more sustainable projects for the future. We can talk about Croatian example, but we won't. But everyone who is from here knows or doesn't know where the money went and what are these sustainable projects that will stay for the future. So how can you empower basically the impact and the participation of civil society in designing policies, and not just being consultative, but be more, how to say, part of the end game of it, not just, you know, sidekicks, because I get a feeling with von der Leyen's ambition that, you know, she tries to concentrate all the decision making within the Commission and with basic inputs from the nation states in the Council. But, you know, can she be your partner in the process?
Definitely. I think the response of von der Leyen cabinet to our letter is beyond my expectation, first of all. And the letter again, of the commissioner, it's brilliant. So now coming back to consultation. What I see with civil society all over Europe is the lack of capacity engaged in consultation. We go to consultation and we don't have people, skilled people, you know, policy advisor, to write, you know, our point of view. So one of my strong, let's say, advice to all of us that are here in the room and presumably will run the next Norwegian fund is to set aside money for think tanks and for policy-based research for civil society organization. And where we lost the battle with European semester. We didn't understood civil society. What is this with the European semester? Oh, it's economic. No. So in Romania, we focused on MCV, monitoring this mechanism that we had with Croatia that was based on reforms, rule of law, justice, and so on. We put all our eggs on that basket. The MCV was lifted, and then it was National Resilience and Recovery Plan. And we had the minister that was coming from civil society. It was a member of board of our foundation, so he started the consultation. He's done a lot of consultation. But basically, the idea of resilience and recovery, it was that we should pick from the European semester report on the country, the reform requested, and build the program on these reforms. Guess what? There was nothing about civil society. It was something about social dialogue that we pick it, and very small issues regarding social services. Because we didn't have people and we didn't pay attention to this instrument. So von der Leyen will go forward with this kind, also the money that on cohesion, everything will be reform-based on European semester. If with civil society, we don't, at the national level, we don't build capacity in being involved and coming up, you know, with research, figures, and so on, we'll lose the battle on this. So this is the European semester, but what is in our letter and what we should fight, it's two things: a strategy for civil society. We have the draft on it. They promised this democracy package, and she was really bitchy with us, sorry, attaching this foreign agents law, you know, that we stop it.
That was the problem for media also in that regard.
But we want the strategy, and we want a democracy semester. Now, in Europe, we cannot talk just about economic and reform, but it should be this attached to the values and to democracy. So you should have the economic the semester and then a democracy semester, like this monitoring mechanism that we had Bulgaria and Romania. That was very useful. Okay, this should be assessed together, the economic reform part with the democratic part. If you don't respect the rules, rule of law, freedoms, you don't get the other part, you know, for the reforms. So this is, you know, a key issue that we should work in the next years and put pressure on the Commission, advocate in the Parliament, and so this, I think, it's the way we could go the next level, organize civil society in the European Union. One more thing that I would like to mention. The new, now we have serve citizens, equality, rights, and value. Actually, this program started, very funny, with a letter developed by Stefan Batory, initiator, together with Okotars and with us and with other members. So I went with Eva from Stefan Batory, with Veronica Mora from Okotars, and myself to Brussels, and we spent 2 days in the parliament when it started, and we presented them. It was 2 pages. At the end, it was transformed in Citizens, Equality, Rights and Value. We had a very good report in European Economic and Social Committee that was drafted by the chair of Civil Society Europe on behalf of France delegation. And we had the head of budget, the general director on budget. We negotiated, and we ended up from 600,000, the proposal of the Commission, with the help of the Parliament. The Parliament was on our side. I think it's 1.2, 1.4 billion. This will be very difficult to defend on the next budget. But the amount is one thing. The part is what is going from this amount through organization. And we have in this letter, it's also in OECD report, it's also on FRA, Fundamental Rights Agency report. We should go more and more on, this organizational grant, mission-driven. We call it differently, but the idea is, that for think tanks, for watchdog organizations, should give, a part of the budget, let's say 20% of the budget or more, just to carry their mission, to be the watchdog, not project-driven. Then is the part of project driven, but this is the whole idea, how you keep civil society in order to build this capacity that I started to talk about. You should have this flexible part of funding. So this is in a nutshell what would be, from my perspective, our mission in order to keep a thriving civic space. And how we could do it, if you look to the promise of von der Leyen from Civil Society Europe email an hour ago, she wants to build a civil society platform. So basically, McGrath has in his portfolio building this. It will not compete European Economic and Social Committee, because European Economic and Social Committee is comprising of 3 parts, business, trade unions, and organized civil society. But this will be the instrument of McGrath to implement, his mandate. So we are going from an area on the previous commission, as commission being as a contact point, to having, let's say, a portfolio that will deal with that. And this platform here is where we should bring all, our efforts and solidarity in order to use this and to reform the dialogue between organized civil society and European Commission Parliament in the future. And I will finish with this. We have the State of the Union speech of the von der Leyen every year. Lately, she didn't mention civil society. She didn't mention the mechanism proposed by Fundamental Rights Agency on defending the civic activists and the media, independent media. This civil society platform should push for von der Leyen to have at least 1 minute in the State of the Union, included the civil society part. And I will stop here.
Leila, but what we saw in the previous period was with the change of politics, you've mentioned polarization, was the change also within narratives and the hijack of the missions and the roles of civil societies, ideologization of civil society. So how to counter that? What will be your proposal to new commission, basically, and to all the mechanisms that are there, which Jona described now here? So how not let it slip? Because we saw how rule of law was very vague in the previous commission.
Not an easy question, definitely. We've been, of course, talking about that, very much aware that there are forces within civil, or using the shelter or using the free space of civil society, advocating for non-civic values. So for me, it's to go back to what civic values are. So should civil society that we invest in That's the question here. Where European Union is going to build the strategy around, and I think it's very important. It's not the strategy because of the paper that strategy will be right on, but it's because of the focus and investment. And when we talk about focus, one of the, I think, like ground or starting points is what are the values that we are investing in, where civil society is, of course, gathered around. Do you want to add something?
This is a very, very good point that you make it. Because sometimes the money from Brussels are going to very conservative organizations that are against the reproductive rights. And we have this case in Romania, an organization that got on SERV, for instance, money to redirect to other organizations. So they are totally quiet on the idea of minority, LGBT, and so on, education in school, reproductive rights. They are very ambiguous, as you know, when you ask them about those things. So from our perspective, and this is in our letter, if this should be, a criteria to give you the money, a proven track record in defending the European values. We cannot fund with the money of the European Commission, from the budget, from my perspective, organizations that are fighting against this structure. So I fully agree that we should be more careful here. And a good friend of mine, a professor of political science, the dean, he's saying always we have civil society, because it's about civilization, civil society, and uncivil civil society. And we should have the courage to point that, Of course, it will be division, but that's, civil society and uncivil civil society.
Yeah, just to continue, there was a lot of debating about how open and, liberal we should be in this space. Should the space that is proclaiming inclusivity be inclusive for everyone? And I don't think it's easy. It's an easy question, and it's even more difficult when we transfer that in the political arena. How will we get the majority of forces to be very, decisive around this, which I think is important.
And public space, sorry to interrupt you, changed with social media and the ownership and,
Yes, it's really, and looking at all of the environment around us, it's not going to be an easy ask, easy request to the European institutions. But what is the point then if you're investing in the forces that will undermine the whole point of European Union? I mean, at least the value part.
This is good.
Only if these forces are integral part of European Union institutions, then we are in a problem, which is happening now.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. It becomes more complicated when we transfer that in everyday political dynamics and the political future.
And when we have parliament as we have, and question marks around the dominant political party in the parliament.
Just one thing to add as an optimistic side, that two European Parliament vice presidents have been tasked for the relationship with EU civil society, including EU Citizen Initiative. And I think this is also a promising direction to affirming this Article 11 of the Lisbon Treaty that is really talking about the dialogue that it should happen in all areas of Union action. And this structural dialogue between European Union institutions and civil society, so we need to make that more structural and more strategic. That will also be one of the guarantee, hopefully, for the future, that the voice will be heard.
This is a fantastic point. I want to add to Gordan. Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that, because Gordan is part of the PETI committee, which is petition committee.
Yes.
And we, of course, always talk about legitimacy, where are the citizens in EU. So how can you use the PETI committee? Because it's also a space for these tendencies to jump in.
Yeah, Actually, for me, petty committee is a great discovery. I have to confess, in the European Parliament, and it's a committee that actually no one wants to take it because everyone's thinking, it's citizens' complaints. Like, it's odbor za predstavke. It sounds extremely boring. But I am actually, my colleague from Spain told me, are you crazy? Take it, this is amazing. And actually, I'm so happy that I'm in this committee, and the committee is really not I wasn't aware of the potential of this committee, and never as a civil society, when I was in civil society, never used this committee. And actually, number of petitions, but I said petitions, I mean predstavka. Those also people are sometimes confusing. The number of petitions coming from Croatia are extremely low. I think maybe we have 3 or 4 of them in the agenda. So people are just not using this mechanism. And the idea is that really each and every citizen can make any complaint about suspicious or breaching of EU law on the local level. And this is, breaching of EU law on local level is very philosophical. It's a legal question, but it can be also very political and philosophical. So we are dealing with some of the petitions which on the first hand doesn't have anything with the breaching of EU law, but are so much important and something is happening like on privacy, security that, the committee is discussing, and then we can point to the Commission to give us the answer, and we can harass Commission all the time, keep the petition open and asking for more. Sometimes when the petty committee is very committed, it can end up with the infringement procedures against the country, or it can end up by direct visit of commissioners. So, this is something I will also, that will be part of my mandate in the following weeks and months to promote more the work of the petty committee, because it's really, really interesting committee, and you can actually feel the Europe in the committee, because you are getting so many different petitions, most of them Spain, Italy, because they are using it very, very hard, but you can really see what is bothering the people. And also European disability card, which is today adopted and accepted across the Europe, actually came through the petition in the petty committee. Something very concrete and banal, because on European level you forgot about some things which are so helpful. So yeah, please use that. And I don't know, maybe later I can also say, because Matko from my office also did very good research about portfolios of the commissioners and who is covering what for.
That will be the next round of questions for all of you, so you keep it. But I want you use the word harassment. You can harass the commission through your committee. But talking about harassment of civil society in Europe from the national points of view, because we see more and more governments becoming, repressive and reductionist in terms of civil society space. What can be done now from the European level? Because we saw, infringement procedures, articles, but on the ground, people are being, harassed very much.
And we can talk about, what is happening in Germany and harassment of protesters supporting Palestine. For example, this is really shocking and confusing, I would say, because no one was expecting that, Germany can harass the activists calling for the end of the war in Gaza, which is very, very problematic. But, for now, I still see the silence about that. So it's still not enough. Also, in countries which are usual suspects, as are Poland, Hungary, there are mechanism visits, and we have seen the maximum that EU can do. It's try to block some of the funding and that's it. But this is the problem of the European Council. Also, let's be real. If you ask the Parliament and the Commission, we will have great ambitions, but go to the Council, and we know majority and who decides and all the rules and potential to reform the Europe. So, who will be the judge on that? So, but what is worrying about is also, I think, that will be more harassment of the green activists pushing for now, keep the Green Deal going on. And now with the war, I said, so that's something which is still surprising. And I also think that actually the civil society within Germany has also to ask themselves first to organize within how much there is solidarity to those protesters from other human rights organizations in Germany, or they are also will not like to take stronger part on that. And going outside of the European Union, probably you have seen, I was really vocal this week about what's happening in Serbia, because that was really unpleasant and very damaging, I would say, for democracy, but also for the Greens. The idea that Vučić signed this deal on lithium with the European Union in June, when there was no parliament, no one was watching, looking, resulted with Vučić's idea that this is an amazing opportunity to smash the civil society fully. And we have seen what he's doing now to the activists. So we raised this question this week in the parliament, and actually it was very good response, and I hope that there will be no such a double standard because that lithium is the new oil or I don't know what. So the mistakes done with Putin will not repeat now with Vučić. But this is also a fight. It's not easy. Because also in my group I was discussing a lot, especially with the German Greens, who are in the government, and Scholz was there in the Serbia. But it's not the true, and this was a very important message to the citizens of Serbia, and I think that should be the message for the activists across Europe, that EU gave up from the activists. It's not true. Some institutions maybe are, but there are some other centers of power which we want to push to balance this struggle.
Okay, we have two interventions, short, Jono, then Mario, and then we'll go to the
Yes, I want to comment on that. So in the discussions that civil society Europe had with von der Leyen cabinet those days, in a way we agree on the idea that the Commission will set up civil society-led protection hubs and an early warning mechanism. So that will mean that in most of our countries we'll have these hubs that will serve not just for civil society activists from European Union, but we are looking also to the Western Balkans, Russia, and so on. So I think this is a very good news, and of course I should praise here the efforts of Fundamental Rights Agency that they started the work with their reports on this issue, and being an agency of the EU, so it was much more easy to hear it from them than from us. So I think this is a good thing.
Thank you, Mario.
I just wanted to pick up on what Gordan said, because I think that's quite important, because we see on a systemic level, basically, that the priorities of the European Union are straight, right, in terms of the green transition nowadays, right? I mean, it's obvious that the priority number one is rolling out as many renewable energy as possible, and at any cost, right? It's blatantly in the European laws that permitting will be easier. We have to cut red tape, and no one should interfere. And I think that it's very important for civil society as well to see that perspective and organize themselves, because I'm afraid that the Commission will be willing to turn a blind eye, if some procedural things are violated in terms of civil society engagement when it comes to rolling out more renewable energies. And that's the fundamental dilemma that we have, right? Europe wants to become more competitive, but at what cost, right? We see more and more, climate policy being pitted against environmental policy, which is quite, a ridiculous idea, but basically that's what's going on, right? So we need more renewables, but at the cost of lower quality of civil society engagement. We won't care about what the local communities think about it, as long as we can keep the economic model, the machine going, right? And by basically replacing one extractivist logic based on fossil fuels with another extractivist logic, like lithium mining and etc. Right?
So now we are coming to full hour of our discussion. I will give first part of the floor to audience, but before that we'll have a quiz according to what your assistant did on the portfolios. So you start by reading it, just a quick one, and then I'll go with the quiz questions from that to all of you, because I think it's very important to hear, when you see who's in charge for what can be, let's say, designed for action in various fields, both nationally and on European level. Start.
I just don't know if people are familiar with the names because
Okay,
I'm also still not-
I will
So
translate.
I will go with portfolio.
Okay.
So, development of civil society platform, that should be the easy one because we mentioned that. Protection of the media, fight against SLAP, collaboration with political parties and zaklade, it's the foundations, yeah. So
Right.
who has this portfolio?
Anyone knows?
They were not listening us, we were talking.
Huh? Ireland.
Ireland,
5
McGrath.
points. 12 points.
And
Like
he's
on Eurovision.
from Renew, so you know, it should be.
So, Liberal Party, Irish commissioner, his portfolio is what was Jourova, more or less, rule of law. And
this is
all
one of the
but
most coherent portfolios.
coherent portfolio. So, okay.
This is interesting and difficult. Women's rights, LGBT rights, gender equality, national minorities, people with disabilities, anti-racism, equality, dialogue between security sector and civil society. Who runs that? France? No. No. Baltic, Norway?
Norway is not in the EU.
No.
Sorry. It will be good, but they will take. They will advocate for oil. Sorry, guys. Bad joke.
Not Italy, not France. It's a Belgium. And this is very shocking. Actually, some of my colleagues had. This is the Haja Lahibi, and
She is a former foreign minister of Belgium,
Yeah.
and she may not pass. Which I was following her work. I must say, I cannot say I'm a fan because I'm a journalist, but I appreciate her personal side, so she could be good dialogue partner if she passes the committees.
I heard something. Her portfolio is preparedness, crisis management, and equality. So this is one of the, you were mentioning this crazy von der Leyen move to mix everything with everything. But some first impression from some of my colleagues who met her that actually on equality she was not that much.
Really?
Yeah, that she couldn't understand. She will not be obstacle, but it was, okay, it's bizarre, but you know, she was, one of her statements about LGBT rights was, I have a transgender friend. And we know, but anyway, let's go further. Social justice, skills, education, social dialogue, European Social Fund and Social Climate Fund.
Come on, Google fast.
Germany, no.
Germany is von der Leyen.
Yeah.
They don't have another. She is representing Germany in the commission.
It's not Cyprus.
Oh, come on.
Romania. And you can tell us more about this person.
Her? Yeah, her. No, but just let's finish.
Yeah.
Let's finish everything, then we will have the assessment of the panel, and then you ask the first round of questions.
So the rights of the youth and older person, the workers' rights of the artists and the cultural rights, in general cultural policies, also youth a little
And
bit.
youth as a cultural category. So Mreža Mladih, you know that. Huh? Malta, bravo.
So you are on
youth,
the top. Okay,
youth
you
prepared. Youth.
You
youth
deserve
sector
each grant
prepared.
you are having. You will not pass portfolio. Okay. Social Democrat, yeah. And then the rights of integration of migrants, fight against anti-Semitism, xenophobia, and hate speech. That's the bizarre one. Croatia.
But do you know that Croatia, that we are in charge for post-war reconstruction of Gaza, don't you?
But yeah, Šuica will deal with the Mediterranean and a little bit, but not on that perspective.
But her portfolio will be interesting concerning, foreign policy and human rights.
Exactly.
Very important,
exactly,
but we'll talk about that. So, okay, the last one, yes?
Migrants' rights. Italy, no, Fito will be the Regi development. If he pass, he will come to my committee for hearing at least. Austria, the new government.
He's an EPP,
EPP guy.
former finance minister,
Yeah.
so current finance minister in the current government with the Greens, and professional tennis
And
player.
apparently when he heard the news, he said, I don't know if Ursula von der Leyen punished me just with my portfolio. That was his first reaction. Okay, so that's
But
it.
as Ursula von der Leyen said at the press conference after she introduced the new members of the Commission, designated members of the Commission or commissioners, she said they are not representing nation states, but they are representing Europe. So we will see how they will represent Europe if Europe is represented in its fundamental legal document, which is called Lisbon Treaty, and all the things that we mentioned here.
But only, it was for me a little bit surprising that several commissioners reacted, but why did I get that portfolio? So, because they don't have a background. I mean, we didn't
so
talk
she
about...
didn't negotiate with the prime ministers of the
Exactly.
states about it.
Exactly.
It's surprising. But
I mean, housing, for example, got a great Danish guy, but his first statement was also, okay, energy, I'm the expert, but people, I really don't know anything about the housing. But he was honest to say, and actually he is now approaching all the groups saying, let me know, I want to teach, and but he's apparently a very good manager.
no, but we can joke, but the situation is really complex, because what Mario mentioned in the beginning, you cannot have one without the other, and what Leila was mentioning, it's too complex and too. Today we're seeing floods in Bosnia. It's really unbelievable, the pictures. I don't know if you saw it, people died. And if you start from there, from these things being more and more often every week, and to go to the complex big political issue, foreign policy, human rights across the Mediterranean, migration as, fundamental dividing line within Europe with populism. Let's go through these portfolios. What can be done? Mario, let's start with, so we have 5 portfolios which are mentioned. So what can civil society organizations at this point in time and through the next period, through the talks about the budget, through the crisis we're experiencing, do through this kind of design of portfolios?
So first, in terms of impressions with the personalities of the designated commissioners. So sort of one perception, especially if you talk about the issues of youth, culture, and sports, which is from a volunteering point of view and civil society, a major area. One common perception is that the weakest commissioner or the weakest candidate got the least important role. That's sort of the impression, and so it will be important to sort of break this this perception, right? To give this portfolio some meat, to enable some progress in terms of these
so
topics.
this is a job, let's say, for youth and cultural organizations throughout Europe and volunteer. Yes,
exactly.
Solidarity Corps to push through him.
Exactly.
Okay.
So,
next.
Then we have the Austrian, which is I mean it was quite obvious that this migration portfolio was handed over to the Austrians, as we see with latest electoral results, and they will have a very hard stance on issues of migration. And as we discussed previously, I think just because the whole political spectrum has shifted slightly to the right in terms of migration and asylum, it will be very difficult, I think, for civil society organizations to push through a more liberal notion of
but I think we don't need to mention liberal. We just need to talk basic human rights approach
exactly.
towards people in need, and I think that is also a field, because we had 2015, but from 2015 until now, that what was Orban thing is now mainstream politics, and I think this is a huge space for civic action in terms of human rights activists at this moment, but we'll see how strong they can be.
But you have to keep in mind that from the political parties, and this is sort of a critique from, if you wish, a critique of the left and also the Greens, is that things that were unimaginable 7 or 8 years ago, things that the Greens and the Socialists would have never supported, have become mainstream. This external dimension of migration. Some radical, previously radical ideas of we have to create hotspots outside of the EU, or we should reintegrate people, repatriate them again to their national states, or things, crazy things that are going on with, having migrant centers for pending asylum claimants in African countries. These things
and then that
were ridiculous 5 or 6 years ago, and now people are seriously considering these things.
And I'm sorry to interrupt you. In that regard, we have Šuica as a designated commissioner for Mediterranean, who will have this and who will now have DG under her mandate, because at the previous one, demography and Future of Europe conference, she didn't. So hopefully there will be more action towards her than before.
Possibly. And I wanted to finish with the Romanian. Just to hint at one very important area which will not have its commissioner this time around, which is DG employment. Just from civil society organizations that work on social economy, care economy, social services, employment, youth employment, and unemployment as well. It's a precedent. This DG has been established in the mid-70s, so first time in how much? 40 years? 50? No? 50 years?
50 years.
There will be no commissioner for social and employment issues, right? So this might again contribute to a greater centralization of these issues within the cabinet of the commission president, right? So the strategies would then, for civil society, have to be, look where the power is, not necessarily the money, but be more direct in pushing their agendas to the cabinet, right?
Leila, your assessment.
Probably there is no portfolio where we cannot see the connection between civil society and the main task of the portfolio, or the whole comprehensive agenda. I can start with the most obvious one: the democracy, justice, rule of law, to first of all protect, widen the free space for civil society, establish make sure that the structural dialogue is established, but also to build a more robust monitoring system, so we know where the weaknesses are in a better way, and to create this common European framework for civil society development through the strategy and so on. Then maybe with the one that we've been talking about a lot is this crisis management equality. I think there is a huge potential in taking this civic engagement wisdom in the community and incorporating in crisis management system, which we don't do enough or not at all in some areas. We saw that in Croatia when we had this crisis during COVID and an earthquake and so on, how little we cooperate, how little structure we have established before the crisis happens. So what is true for Croatia is, I think, of course, it's very different.
This will be new normal, crisis management will be the
You do
normality.
the crisis management in a peaceful time, so to say. you build that structure. So I think it's also important to come to the common European agenda on that. And just to come back to the European Solidarity Corps, because it's really important for civil society, for volunteering. This was a huge milestone when we established European Solidarity Corps, and I think it's really important, but it does need more investment, especially in the quality part and in the capacity of the communities to involve these volunteers in a meaningful and impactful way to preserve the values and to develop them even further. So I think this is also worth reconsidering if that framework is also to be open to other age groups, not just to young people. Because, as we already mentioned, more exchange, more connecting will certainly help Europe.
Yeah. So for me, it's very clear, the mandate of McGrath, and I will read you from the mission letter. To set up engagement with civil society on democracy, rule of law and related issue, and build a civil society platform to support more systematic civil dialogue and work to strengthen protection of civil society, activists and human rights defenders in their work. So in the mandate of the Czech Commissioner of Jourova, that was not there. And I could do the separation with the Belgium that will look to, to another area. So for me, this is clear exactly what we have requested. Now about these fancy names that proposed for the commissioner, remember to the previous commission of her, the first one, when she had the European way of life for the Greek commissioner that I know, and I say, what I'm doing with that. So it's her way. But to take it a bit in a funny joking mood, let's look to the Hungarian commissioner, health and animal welfare. I mean, she really, kicked Orban from this point of view.
Never underestimate, cat ladies and dogs.
No, but he wanted so much, Orban, to keep enlargement. But because for him, he was also always looking to the Western Balkans, and his friends like Vucic, and, to export his theories. Also, he was against, Moldova and Ukraine. So one of the key for me portfolio are Slovenian portfolio. Because if in the next 5 years...
Just to inform, it's enlargement. And post-war reconstruction of Ukraine.
Yes. So if we don't succeed in the next 5 years to get Montenegro and its new members, nobody will believe that the doors are open. So for me, this is another key portfolio, because always I'm mentioning to people in Brussels, okay, Euro was a success policy, common market, but one of the most successful policies ever it's enlargement. We wouldn't be here now, right?
And also, I remember when we presided the COVID time that you organized at that time as a civil society, this is also a crucial thing, not to forget those in the waiting room as a civil society from Europeans.
And I'll finish with our portfolio. So we had a huge debate in Romania. We want an economic portfolio. I mean, they created again expectation like Schengen, and it didn't happen, So just now by plane we have it, aerial. So it's a technocrat. She's for 20-something years in the Socialist Party, but she was also inside the Socialist Party seen as a technocrat. It's from my county, from Brasov. It's a very hard-working lady. She was always a Secretary of State in the ministries related with EU funds, European social funds. So she's really knowledgeable. She's really knowledgeable about everything, what we have there. She ended up on the list because our first proposal, that was Victor Negrescu, von der Leyen didn't like him at all, the VP of the European Parliament on behalf of socialists, brought her onto the list, saying that if we want to fight for the cohesion policy and because we have this deal with Portugal, Spain, the socialists there, I don't know how much with Croatia, to defend, as much as we could defend from the cohesion policy as it stands now. We need a person in the European Parliament to be in the committee and to be, really good on that. So this is the way she got into the list and it was elected into European Parliament. So at the very beginning, they thought that we need a technocrat. So von der Leyen rejected Negrescu, and then she was the second choice. I really believe that she would be a very good one, open to dialogue, and already from the people that interacted with her in DG employment, they were really happy with her level of understanding the job.
So we have Leila and then Maria to interventions.
I really wanted to I remembered we didn't mention enlargement, Marta Kosia, Slovenian one. I think it's really important.
Maybe Tanja Fajon will, who knows?
Yeah, well,
who knows?
Yeah. But connecting civil society with that portfolio, it's really important to invest also in these relationships, civil society in a structured way and in a horizontal way. Not just, the predominant narrative was always that the civil society for the European Union will help civil society in accession countries. We also have a lot to learn from their point. We also have a lot to learn. So I think also this narrative has to change in more exchange.
No, but on the example which Gordan mentioned, with Serbia, for example,
Exactly.
what they did in this protest thing, it didn't happen for a long time within European Union anywhere. Maria.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, there are two more portfolios that we didn't mention, which are, I think, very important from a civil society perspective, and that sort of went under the radar, both in the European media, but also national. And these are the heavyweights, sort of the fat cats of the European Commission, Valdis Dombrovskis and Maroš Šefčovič. I would say two key soldiers of von der Leyen's Commission, who are in charge of interinstitutional cooperation and issues of transparency and I think simplification and implementation. And you don't have to go far to see what's going on with implementation as we speak with deforestation issues, right? Where the regulation on deforestation will be prolonged. Its implementation will be prolonged for another year.
It's a proposal.
It's a proposal, but likely going to make it. And it's if you think about who will be in charge of the DG for these issues in the coming mandate, so the Swedes, well, they have a vested interest in standing against stricter regulation on the deforestation. So these will be key areas because if the Commission and the European Union as a whole will do greater efforts, will put the greater effort into cutting red tape, faster implementation, and simplification, I think that rings some bells and some raises some red flags for civil society as well, because it won't be easy.
First round of questions, hands.
I suppose we'll talk later about foreign policy. Then I won't start with that.
No, but you can start it.
Yeah.
Just to mix it.
Is it in the context of maybe even Brexit as well, but especially the, let's say, impotent reaction, or at least the slow pacing reaction on Hungary, Poland, I think Slovakia is going there as well, of the EU, of the Commission and Brussels. Is it a moment to maybe talk, at least think about a new EU treaty? Or it's like, let's stay on the safe side now because we don't know where it's gonna go. Maybe it's gonna be even worse.
And I want to add to that, when we look at the case of Austria, for example, in 2000, when Jörg Haider was elected into government, so he became part of Schüssel's government. At that time, EU was 15-member organization, And we had the whole procedure of Troika coming to Austria because for the first time after the Second World War, right-wing party entered one EU government. From that time up until now, we have Lisbon Treaty, and now we have regulation and procedures, infringements of rules of law. So this kind of rapid action concerning the deterioration of the democracies is impossible. And we have, you know, right-wing in each and every government, including in Croatian government at the moment. So I want to add to that, to the possibility of the treaty change, also the democratic reforms that were promised through the previous commission of von der Leyen. Maybe I will give a floor to Mario because you are from this. I don't know if you had someone particular that wanted to answer. So how do you empower democratic procedures within the European unity, you know, citizen participation, and what you said, people just don't know how the parliament functions. You are now an MP. You see how many possibilities there are within the European parliamentary procedure, but it just kind of happens. So Mario, just try to summarize it.
Yeah, I mean, EU treaty change always tricky, a tricky question. I mean, it's both von der Leyen, I would say, and some member states are sort of sympathetic to this idea, and also when you look at the Draghi report, he indicates that something of that sort might be the way forward, but not necessarily by EU treaty change, but something very technical called the passerelle clause, which enables sort of different speeds of integration, if you wish. So we might end up with you know, a latest version of Europe of multiple speeds, I would say, where the more ambitious countries would join together. But as I said, issues of unanimous decision making, I guess, also including the you know, Article 7 procedure. I don't see a way forward on that. But in terms of you know, how to make sure that you know, citizens are involved, I always say that there are three ways of ensuring that citizens are involved in EU matters. One is sort of the input side, making sure that the voices of people and civil society is heard before any decisions are made, so priority setting. And I would say there is, at least my impression is that people who were involved in this strategic dialogue on the future of agriculture, for instance, were sort of happy with the fact that, you know, there were 29 organizations, many coming from the civil society, involved in this exercise of setting the priorities straight for the new commission. But then you have to deliver on these promises and include civil society and citizens in decision making. So I would say one big task in this mandate will be making sure that this idea of citizen panels becomes reality, because we saw that it was just a paper tiger thus far.
No, but the communal spaces, we see cities, for example, city of Rijeka, Zagreb, it's beginning to function, and I think this is where you know, local communities can jump in.
And I think that the Commission finally realized that, you know, it's you know, you can fool me once, but you can't fool me twice. Because, you know, it's, you know, all this you know, parade of having citizens panels without any outcome or transparency, you know, how you follow up with this, or you don't make sure that it's a structured, you know, dialogue, but just, you know, panel discussions and debates. That's not going to make it anymore. So we have to step up on that as well.
Like the debate on future of Europe, which took 5 years of very light job to our former commissioner. But
No,
back
but
to
I
the...
wouldn't be, okay, we can talk about committee, but I wouldn't be cynical about the process because unfortunately it was
No,
COVID. I was in all of the citizen
I don't
panels.
know. I don't think
and,
that was very goodly.
But what
I'm
can
very
you do?
critical towards
No,
that.
but this is something that
Yeah.
you can now improve. These are the
Definitely,
things
but as
because
he-
democracy.
colleague mentioned, I mean, the
Yeah.
way how this agricultural vision was made was maybe the way. But looking the Draghi report, someone noticed that no one from the Eastern Europe, no expert contributed to the
included,
report.
yeah.
So that's like a little bit bizarre.
No, no, so in,
came to Croatia, for instance.
For
It was
Kozalt.
a bit more inclusive.
Just on the treaty, because that's the top question, which I really am frustrated about. Remembering the campaign for these European elections, because I think that position of my party and myself, I think we were the only one daring to say that yes, maybe, of course the treaty has to be changed, otherwise it's going to be difficult, because we have seen now the limits of this treaty, and there are clear limits. And then people can get some frustrated, so why don't you do more about Orban? Because actually there is no mechanism if you don't change the treaty. But the real problem is that I also think now it's not the time. I mean, explaining what I said at the beginning, what is the majority even in the council and not saying in the parliament, I think this is really not the time, because they will all pull this sovereignism argument. Although, when you look at the statistics, vast majority of EU decisions are made not with unanimity, but with a simple majority or two-thirds majority. So this is this myth about the unanimity.
QMF, yeah.
And it's like, maybe there are some of the fields where we can really get rid of this unanimity, not on all the fields, but, I think there is a space. But it's so easily politically misused immediately, and not only by the right wing, by the center, look, HDZ. They will defend unanimity by the end, by the last drop of their blood. Even the socialists were not clear around that. So that's I don't think it's a way to do it. But what I have also learned as a new MEP, we had discussion on housing, which is now top topic. As the demography was 5 years ago, now everyone's talking about housing, which is good. And when Ursula von der Leyen was on our group on presenting her program, and we had the opportunity to question her, exactly one of the questions was about the competence of EU to deal with the housing, because that was in the last 5 years, all the initiatives started by the Greens on housing were stopped. No competence, no competence. And now she said, you're okay, when there is such a huge political will, and I remember those words, you can always dive deep in the treaty and find everything. So this deep dive in the treaty also resulted with defense minister. Let's don't forget, EU doesn't have any competence on defense, on industry, of course, but not on defense. But what is happening now, it's much more than an industry regarding the defense. So, there is always the way when there is a political will.
Oh, this is, please, hands up. No, I cannot. No, I cannot give you another question. I can, but
there is.
Please.
Mogu govoriti hrvatski.
So I will.
Or just in English.
How many people are here from who don't speak Croatian?
Okay, I will
Please.
speak in English.
Because I think they need it for the.
Doesn't matter. I would love to ask Mr. Goran. Yes. Gordan, sorry, you speak very well. I'm very much interested in these practical details. You are speaking about high politics, about something we listen from you. You, as our MEPs, can do something on the European level, and we can give you guides. What about you are supposed to focus? Yes. And I'm very interested about things you say, petty committee, which is how we can get there to be more complaints from Croatia. Maybe that is also a way we can do something to raise it to the eyes of European community. And I have some private ask, not private from me, but from Croatian Union of Autism Association as a part of Autism Europe, who put a chart in European Parliament, a resolution of European Parliament about rights of persons with autism. And we ask you and all of our MEPs to sign that chart, because many other countries from Europe, all of their MEPs signed this chart, which is in the parliament. We as parents and association, Union Croatian for Autism, ask you and other MEPs to sign that in the favor of persons with autism, not just in Croatia, but in the Autism Europe and all over the world. So that is my...
Did we sign?
Did you all sign it?
Yeah.
Because when I come on the General Assembly, and I'm having it soon, in the Autism Europe, they named in which country how many MEPs sign it. And last time they say for Croatia, so don't embarrass me, please, on the General Assembly.
Good to know.
Okay, and how to reach Peti?
Okay, first I can promise that really we have to make a campaign in Croatia around Peti, but it's really simple. It's really you write the complaint explaining the problem, and you have to pick that there is connection to the European law, something. Because if it's not, it can be automatically rejected, because it's not competence of Peti to deal something on which is only and strictly under the power of national level. So we will try to develop also some mechanism to explain to people how to write that and how to refer, but also if it's a problem which is seriously can hit not only people in Croatia but also in EU, then just write it by your own words. You don't need a lawyer, you don't need to call yourself on the treaty, but explain it by the simple words, what is the problem. And then, there are really, what is nice with the parliament, they really have top advisors in all the committees, and they really understand, and they are not politically biased, so they're really independent, and they really do a very good analysis of the petitions. And if I'm there, also please get in touch with me, by email, whatever, and let me know that this petition will be there, and then I can maybe push for that, yeah. But may I just one word on...
One word.
Which frustrated me in the campaign, because we were receiving as a candidates, and I was here, I have to say, in front of the civil society, be critical a little bit, as also former member of civil society. Actually, the only pressure we were receiving was sign the pledge, sign the pledge. And, okay, so we can sign. But I was expecting more, signing the pledge, and I was having a feeling this is such a project-based activity, 273 MEPs signed the pledge. So what? You can, of course, keep us responsible if we sign and then we don't deliver, but, this is not good enough. I think that for civil society, there should be more pressure on us, on MEPs.
What Jonut said, designing things, basically, and building up these capacities, what Leila said, to people kind of have it done. Please.
Thank you all. It was very interesting. So in the light of increased polarization, paranoia of migration, danger everywhere, is it a utopia to overbridge all that by the topic of mental health? Because I'm coming from organization, umbrella organization that promote mental health in the community. And I must admit that after this discussion, I feel depressed.
I have to add to your questions, because within the Conference of the Future of Europe, from the contingent of youth, there was a Croatian representative chosen, Mateja Lisak, who pushed for this pan-European mental health initiative, which was now adopted, and it's going to be, so I think you're quite right. This is something that needs to be, that connects a lot of dots, and this, social issues that we have, and youth, and human rights, and migration, you name it. So I think you should also connect.
Actually, there are very good news around mental health.
Really?
The next plenary, there will be discussion, so keep on
initiative.
follow in Strasbourg. I think it's on Wednesday. I even asked for some talking points. I don't know if I'll get it, because as MEP, you cannot contribute to each discussion because there are too many of us, so there is a like structure. But also in von der Leyen's speech, if you have noticed, I mean, one of the health priorities, fight on mental health together with the cancer. So this is getting really, really top on the agenda. And it's not the problem of this division I was mentioning of the right wing, because what I was also testing, all the social-related initiatives got consensus. I was now pushing some on Petty regarding the pensioners' rights, unanimity, from the fascist or the AfD to the left. We all voted in favor. So I think that mental health will not be divisive. Only as I say, migration, green transition, and the third I forgot, which was... yeah.
No, but in terms of also money
Security.
distribution, it will be probably Lena, please.
Just to add, you asked if it's utopian to think that this issue is going to overcome these problems. I don't think it's utopian, but of course it's not panacea, it's not the only answer. But within the spectre of addressing issues like, of course, issues like, our
This issue.
and
Government.
it's so interconnected with other social issues that, again, interconnected with how we design our communities, and that also translate to democracy and the values.
Another question? Please.
I have a question for Gordan. If I understood well, you said you're very skeptical towards citizens' panels. Did I understood well?
He was skeptical about process of the Conference on the Future of Europe, probably personalized in the commissioner at that time. But I certainly hope that, for example, your party is ruling here in the city of Zagreb, where you're now trying to introduce these participatory budgets and things like that. So hopefully we will have here in the capital also some kind of citizen panels. If
Are you skeptical generally towards the panels? Okay.
Okay, so that was yeah. Okay, but we can
Yeah, they are sometimes very questionable even here in Croatia. So as we did one in Rijeka, and I can see good and bad sides of it. And I can see that some people are very against it. Some think that's a really good idea. I just wanted to hear your opinion about it.
Maybe we can do it, in schools and a little bit more closed places. But there are these, so thank you. I can add here, before I'm waiting for another question, the thing that is close to Ivan's heart and which he pinpointed, and this is foreign policy. The problematic issue for Europe, basically, is that even though we have this big commissioner for, let's say, foreign and security policy, we don't have common foreign and security policy in that regard. And concerning Europe's role in terms of integrating human rights within its foreign policy, concerning that the weight of the power of European Union is within European Council, so let's say prime ministers and presidents of the member states, I think this will be hard to sell, concerning that from the other side we have a strong propaganda campaign from Russia in our neighborhood, plus the huge destruction that we're seeing both on the Middle East and in Ukraine from that regard. So maybe to Yonut, if you can take it, or Leila, there is a lot of talk about, human rights as part of European foreign policy. But in this point of time, do you think that Kaja Kallas will be different than Borrell, and that this commission will have, let's say, the face to face these neighbors of ours with this kind of strategy?
It's a bit difficult to do it nowadays, because we've done big mistakes. So it's like we are bipolar, in a sense. So on one side, you have Orban, you have Fico, you have all these crazy people in our union, And we are proposing this directive on foreign interference. And on the other side, you go and tell to the Georgian government, we will lift the visa regime if you pass the law on foreign agents, LGBT and so on. Now you have a project proposal in the Bulgarian parliament on gender, education and foreign agents. So in a way it's much more difficult than 10 years ago to go to tell to Vucic that, you know, like it was in our case with Verheugen, that was the German commissioner at that time, you know, if you don't do, we'll stop. You know, this is because in our yard we don't clean. But there are instruments that are really good. For instance, EDO, a European Initiative for Human Rights, that we use. This is much more better than SERF, for instance, inside. So we have instruments to do it. What we should do in order to preach, you know, these values, to have them, you know, set again in our yard. Now, Kallas, I think a lot of people they think that she will be that this position should have given to you know, another country because it's too much obvious against Russia and so on. I don't know what to say. I didn't follow her too much, so I'm really keen to see her first moves. But I think, having in mind that she is a prime minister, former prime minister, she will have more leverage than the previous people that were in this position. That for some time, even Mogherini, that I know her and I respect her for much, didn't have them, or Ashton, or now the current one. So I hope she will bring this position on a much more higher level, I don't know how to call it, than previous people. And that she will do a good job also with the Commissioner on Enlargement, because more or less DG Enlargement with the European External and Action Service should work together, because yeah, it's these portfolios that are overlapping. And I will finish with that. Of course, I would prefer Fajon. She was always one of the best people that we had in the parliament as MEP from Slovenia, following the enlargement part. Yeah, but this is the political consensus.
Questions, please. Hands up. Hands up. No, come on, guys. So I'll move to, again, another umbrella issue, which is what Mario is pushing all the time, but which is fundamental and will be, it's climate change. Because within the climate change umbrella, you have a whole new design of economy, social contract, Labib, so the Belgium portfolio, so Mediterranean, of course, because this is our neighborhood, our possible future, our new contract with Africa, if it's going to be possible. So in terms of climate activism, and in terms of civil society that can push this agenda within society. Gordan, how do you see it? Because, of course, your party is this party.
So the thing we are seeing from the first days of the parliament, you know, that there is a clear tendency to not... at the beginning, when we were electing the commissioner, on the stage was also to kill the Green Deal. It fully. So one of the reasons why I voted for the von der Leyen, and which was then also criticized by some circles, was that I think that she gave at least some guarantees that it will not be destroyed, the Green Deal. So because there was also on the table, you know, that the things, some of the directives will be just like thrown away. Now we are seeing that this is not happening, they're not thrown away, but you know that postponement is called for postponement, etc. So it's a clear trend that coming from EPP, from the argument of over-regulation, which I'm against. I don't think it's actually the true. That, you know, the Greens, we are the guilty one, the Greens regulated so much everything with the agriculture, with the industry, that it's impossible to do agriculture in Europe or produce the cars. Yeah, which is complete nonsense and lie, and I want really to stress that out, because, you know, we are not behind China and States because we have regulation in Europe. There are some other reasons, maybe of the years of austerities which we've been talking before, and not investing on time in a green transition. You know, now we are like, let's do something about that. So I see this huge pushback, especially coming from Mr. Manfred Weber. They really, this is the head of the EPP group. I mean, German EPP really, and you see they are backing the car industry extremely strong. We will have debate on Wednesday on car industry in the parliament. And they really want, you know, to challenge the achievements of the last commission related to the green. And all the activism related to the green will be also, as I said, will have a hard time. So, you know, blaming the oil industry will not be that much easy anymore. The petition is still open. We managed to keep open the petition. That was the fight last week. Asking for more transparency on lobbying of the oil and carbon industry in the Commission, because there has been like millions of meetings unreported with the Commission, and there has been some safeguards done towards the tobacco industry, but towards the carbon industry, no. So the groups are still there. They are pushing. If us as a Greens, we will be very much in touch with them. But the question is, you know, I also think maybe that the time has come also, okay, if there is such a huge EPP majority, which is maybe sometimes ready to go extreme right, maybe we should also let them to show so what they will deliver. So, you know, and how they will fight with the floods and what's happening in Bosnia when you mentioned. Because it's totally also double standard. I mean, I remember on Monday we had discussion on agriculture. Everyone was blaming the Green Deal of the failure of the agriculture, which I already explained it's not the case. On Wednesday we had discussion on the floods in Poland, and then everyone was asking, please, more help from Solidarity Fund. Let's do something about it, you know. So it's, you know, when it's when the floods and the catastrophes hit the place, then, you know, okay, we are talking about back on climate change. But immediately when we were talking about, you know, car industry, we forget about the climate change. So it's not any more important. So this will be this tension. I still have a trust in von der Leyen that, you know, she will try to keep, because some of the acts are her act. I mean, came from her commission, Deforestation Act, which is, as we are seeing now, heavily attacked by EPP. So she's not having easy time in her own group, which we also know. Or the Natural Restoration Law, it came from her commission. And now we see how radically looks this act, which is actually not, you know. But there's a huge, huge resistance on that. So the fight will be there, and us as Greens, myself, for sure, we will give all possible support to be still vocal on that. But we also have to be tactically more clever than maybe there has been our colleagues in some other Greens parties in other countries, which were actually managed to be put on the cross, so to say, as the only and the main guilty ones for the failure of, I don't know, success of the economy of the country. And that's something which is very dangerous.
We have 20 more minutes, so please raise your hands, because I will give it to you, but I think that, please, lady. Microphone.
I just remembered that today there is another, let's say, a nice event. I'm kind of sorry that I couldn't attend both of them, being here and there at the same time, but it was just an inspiration for this question. Maybe you could comment on European Citizens Initiative as a tool for maybe policy changes on EU level. Thank you.
Leila, Yonut, you want to take this? Yonut?
So when it happened, it was in a way European Economic and Social Committee. It was asking, you know, to have the secretariat of these initiatives, and some of that we opposed at that moment, because I might be wrong here, but it was used by, uncivil civil society for many times this instrument. So, for instance, we they asked us for our headquarters in Brussels, for our rooms. This organization that is working, so-called families with many children. I don't know how is yes, in English. So in a way, there were very few initiatives, that got the 6 countries and all this and started to run. That was actually, on a democratic, improving the way and so on. It was used more or less by a porta-voice for these movements that, in a way, they created these transnational European networks and so on. So I don't know what we could do and how it could be improved or not. But for me, it was a lost opportunity for democratic value, European value-based civil society.
Thank you, because there is, such a huge amount of end subjects and, fields, because what Legla, you said, civil society activism and engagement is everywhere in each and every portfolio, each and every part of Europe. Talking about this, maybe to lead this towards the end, uncivic civic society and this dilemma, this challenge Europe is facing. Europe that is getting old, Europe that is still the regional alliance of states that doesn't have, let's say, power as from one side autocracies have, and on the other side, US of A as a biggest still economic power of the world have. I won't go into categories of optimism and pessimism, but of activism still on our continent with this grim situation which you've mentioned for us all. Are you an optimist or a pessimist?
My nature is to be an optimist, so I cannot say I'm a pessimist, but it's going to be it's going to be difficult and demanding. And this liberal mantra on economy, where location. I think when it comes to civil society, is collaboration. And it's also, being aware that these challenges are so complex, we cannot, I repeat, we cannot answer on as individual organizations or even as like separate countries on a national level.
This is fantastic point. So how do you take people out of their niches? I know it's problem always of financing, of staying alive in these environments. So how do you make this cross alliances?
Yeah, unfortunately, the whole funding system really doesn't help a lot. It helps some, doesn't help a lot. These short project cycles, it's making organizations tired and worn out from accomplishing these short-term results, putting a lot of resources in reporting and so on. But still, I think the big portion of this investment has gone to partnerships. And there are some very important partnerships across Europe that have been established and that are growing. And this is where my somehow optimism lies, that we realize that we need to create more alliances and stronger alliances. And when I say stronger, is we need to invest in the capacities how to run and maintain these alliances. This is a special set of skills and awareness. It's not easy to be collaborative, to build collaborative and maintain collaborative networks. And also, I think we mentioned this, but it's really important for progressive part of civil society to invest more in knowledge, in research, in data management, and so in that evidence-based approach that is really very much connected to our integrity and credibility.
Call for last question, okay, please, because even you already got one, sorry, and your host.
It's not directly related to the topic, but I would like to use the opportunity that we have Ionut with us. European Social and Economic Committee mandate ends in 2025. And we do have representatives from Croatia in this body, and we do have specific procedures on national level how these people are elected, especially people representing civil society sector in Croatia. So my question is, or I would invite you to comment on the importance of having these having high quality representatives in this body, because I'm aware that they do not represent individual countries. They are there to serve the
European civil society.
Yeah, European civil society.
This is what we are reminding them, because
so not to have non-civics in the civic society.
Yes, it's very thin margin always with those people, and I'll give you the example of my Bulgarian colleagues. Some of them, I work with them. My portfolio basically for many years, for 20 years there, is Western Balkans. So before Borisov shifting to this idea that North Macedonia should change the constitution and they blocked everything, my colleagues, they were really pro-enlargement from Bulgaria. So the moment that Borisov, as head of the government, and all this election shifted, all of them are on this path. So I was really amazed on this issue. Now, coming back to elections, yes, and we have a report. Solidarna was part of this report. As you know, you also had the representative. Marina was with me several years there. We were considered, you know, the extremists in a way by other people there. But the fact is that mostly in the Western countries, there is no, announcement about any competition. So we have a screening. The report is public on the Civil Society Europe website, and we took country by country to see how it happened. Yeah. So what we would like to do now is a campaign to send to all the national organization or resource center or whatever they have as a federation to, publicize this and to have, let's say, transparent process of selecting the people that will represent in the third group the civil society. We have also best practices in that regard, and we have also criteria, one of them being, the attachment to the values. A funny story, it was that Marina asked me to, when it was the debate last time in Croatia about electing the new members, to have a speech to share my experience in ESC and to share our experience with election. And I put this on the table that the people shouldn't have been convicted of bodies on, like we have, for instance, in Romania, on anti-discriminatory declaration and so on, and against EU values. And now she's a member of ESC, asked me, okay, but what are the EU values? And I told her, I don't like, we should change the EU values. So we have those people in the group, and we need more people that, to be representative, because some of them are former member of a board. So that's why I think ESC, if you look to the quality of our reports, and you link it with the people, you see the quality is better when people are coming from real civil society organization, from umbrella structure. They are linked with civil society Europe, with European Civic Forum. They are able to organize a public hearing in the European Parliament, because it's not just your writing. You could write a very good report. Nobody has read it, the one from us and the Committee of the Region. If you don't involve in the public hearing to prove that you have behind a big umbrella organization from member countries and from the EU level, then nothing will happen. So I think, yes, that we should, in a way or another, to restructure this way of looking to the institution. I think it's very important to have legitimate people inside the ESC, and everything is, linked with the quality of members. Yes.
And as you have a business community inside, I think it's I have to mention it, very good initiative by the Good Lobby, and our friend Alberto Alemano is to kind of oblige business community to, within their business organizations, have some kind of civic education or whatever. So maybe you can also, because they can also be on the good side of the story in terms of financing, not to wait the funds and everything. So to wrap things up, I give a short opportunity to our MP to pledge to the civil society here what he will do, and just one more pledge, written by only you, signed by just you. So take the mic. And we heard a lot of really good inputs, I think, here today, what can be done, because it's a vast, avalanche of issues that are standing in front of civil society in Europe today, within civil society. But to end not in optimism, but in realist note, can you push things forward in this mandate?
I hope definitely yes, regardless this outcome of the elections. And I mean, myself and my colleagues, we've been in opposition for a long time, so we know how to be in opposition, how to be strong opposition, being before also an NGO, always as opposition to any government. So as I said, I'm still a little bit learning on the possibilities, because it's like a spaceship and getting to know all the procedures. The good thing is that I really have a great support of my group, Green Group, who are really taking care of me, and I think that the staff that is working for me is also very good one. So myself, my office, we are very much open to collaboration. You have seen how quickly we have raised the issue of what's happening in Serbia in a week, basically with Serbian civil society. So please get in touch with us in Zagreb, in Brussels. It's easy to get me, and we respond to all the emails. We maybe don't say all the pledges, but we do respond to all the emails. And I'm really looking forward to work together on different opportunities, and especially on PETI committee.
And for the end, Mario, to wrap things up, just a couple of sentences. We heard a lot of concrete proposals. I know that running through institutions is very difficult, because Europe is still very complex. But to connect communal things, local and European level, it seems to me at this moment would be much easier to connect national level to local and to European, to kind of bypass, to connect local initiatives with European ideas and whatever stayed here with this value.
Well, that's something that we haven't discussed today, but I mean, there are serious initiatives out there who suggest to do the same, right? Sort of bypass the national level. And I think for instance, the European Commission has tried to do similar stuff with regards to the European semester that we talked about today, talking directly to stakeholders. I mean, that has been already highlighted. That was a missed opportunity for civil society, because there were special officers of the Commission reaching out to different stakeholders, trying to make sure that the Commission's reports on economic, social, and all other issues were as inclusive in thinking that they were. I think that that's also part of the solution, to not always go to the national level, but just to bypass and talk directly to the institutions with the help of umbrella organizations, because as we said, mobilizing many people and organizations around an issue has a greater chance of creating some serious impact.
Mario Munta, Gordan Bosanac, Lila Šehić, and Jono Cibian, thank you so much for being on this panel. I hope that we get some sense of direction to the civil society. What can they expect now? Because it's really a lot of blurred lines all around us. Thank you so much. Give them a round of applause. And I don't know, where is Ivan to wrap things up? You're here, you want to wrap this up and invite people because, okay, so we are wrapping this up and inviting you to have lunch, yeah? Okay.